Can you talk about talent in your go-to-market strategy? And from this point of view, early doors, how do you structure infrastructure to support it? How do you structure the right people? What's the best recipe for that, or the worst?
Got it. It's a big question. So I think it starts off actually for me with people are naturally tribal, and you go to Manchester as an example. You might be Mancunians, but you're City of United. People always look to kind of cut out the lowest common denominator, and that's the same in any organisation. And I think you'll see if you're not careful, that sales marketing rift, that marketing product rift, you see it all the time. And I think it doesn't come from a bad place, but it happens very, very naturally because people like to be alike. And so as an organisation, I think you've got to very consciously and actively resist those forces of entropy to get that cross-group collaboration going. And there are various structures. Shared goals are really important. If the sales guy's off earning the great big fat commission check and the person brought all the leads in doesn't feel like part of that success, then you're not going to have a lot of success there. If the product team are building a bunch of features for this customer over here, but actually your marketing guys are off pitching this customer over here, it's not going to work. And so you've got to make sure that you've got shared accountability through the organisation. And then I think the other thing that we find works really well is creating small, very nimble, empowered teams to go and get stuff done. And so there's a brilliant book called Team of Teams, which we make a lot of people in the organisation read when they come in. There's an 8-page summary for people like me who don't like reading, that's a really old book. And this idea is, you set something up, they're going to fix a problem, that team will disband, and they'll come back together for the next problem and disband. And they're self-organising, so it doesn't come from the top. Actually, most people in our company are very, very suspicious of authority. So as a leader, your job is to give your team context, to make sure that they've got the right parameters for success, you're removing the roadblocks, and then you create an environment where you hire really smart people and you tell them not to wait for you to go and get stuff done, because the worst thing is they're sat there waiting for you to make a decision. They've got to go and get stuff done really quickly.
And I think, and I can add to that, I guess, is also what we're being very careful of is when to scale the team. So we've got 5 people in the sales team at the moment, and until they've solved the problem of what is it that we're selling, exactly who's the product fit for, exactly what are the missing features, and like building that really collaborative relationship. Todd was talking about kind of with the product teams. Like, it doesn't make sense to scale that team because you're just going to create a huge problem, right? Because you're scaling a team that's not fully kind of figured out how to sell it, or what the product is, or who to sell it to, for example. So, and I think we take the kind of same approach on marketing. Like, it'd be very easy to say we want to get here, so I've got to have a sales team that grows this fast, or a marketing team that spends this amount of money. But I think it's far better to take an approach that says, well, once they've solved the problem of how to do this marketing or this sales team, then we'll scale it. And so we grow at the speed at which people solve the problems, not at the speed at which we theoretically want to get somewhere, or the speed at which we therefore backwards kind of just start hiring into. Because you just end up in a mess.
That's perfect. Nina, earlier you said you never expected to grow at the pace that you did grow at. How do you support that from this talent point of view?
I think from a talent and infrastructure point of view, I think it's a big question, because I think what's right at the sort of startup stage is very different to what's right at the scale-up stage. And I think actually you can put too much infrastructure and process in place at the startup stage when when everyone needs to be a bit scrappy to get things done, and actually you would just slow things down by trying to build that sort of big company infrastructure. So I think that's needed at the point of scale up. So I think when you get to that scale up stage, that's when you need to start putting in place the right, the people, because I think at the early stage you need a lot of people that are good at a lot of things. And then as you get to the scale up stage, you start to need the specialists, and you start to need the real experts in the individual channels, and the experts in particular verticals and things. And I think it's sort of horses for courses, and looking at what stage of business you're at, and then finding the right infrastructure for that stage. And I think what you typically find is you sort of put an infrastructure in place, and then at 30 people it works, at 50 people it breaks, then you do it again, at 100 people it breaks again, and it's just that constant sort of iteration of renewing the infrastructure and the team and reorganising. So it's almost a sort of constant process of getting it right.
channels, direct, partner, referral. Can we talk about that and what your approach is to that?
All of them. So we sell direct. We have a direct sales team, and we sign every customer one by one. It's always a face-to-face, or maybe telephone, but always person-to-person sale. Our customers are, we're B2B to X. So Revolut, for example, when Revolut signs a customer, we benefit from that flow. So in effect, we are a channel play. Our entire business is a channel play. And we stay very, very true to that. We won't veer into the direct selling model because we think that puts into competition with our customers. So we're very, very strict on that as a selling policy.
So we, again, because we've got such a wide audience, we sell through self-serve, we sell through sales funnel, and we sell through a partner network as well. So we have all three channels set up. So, and I think it really depends in certain territories where we see the product market fit being more aligned with, say, the SMB market. We go through a sort of partner network, and because I think in certain markets where we want a sort of low cost, low risk entry, then the partner network is really good for that. It lets us access a new market with a relatively low sort of effort from our side. The flip side is, I guess, it can take a long time to set up a partner network, but if you've got an existing network in existing countries that you can sort of roll out into new territories, then that works very well.
A lot of the Transferwise challenge is just people's ignorance to what banks cost them. So if you're looking at, say, moving money internationally, they think it might cost 10 quid, it's probably costing them 50 quid, and it's hidden in the exchange rate. So that's the biggest challenge for us, is just how do we raise that awareness to whether it's small businesses or whether it's consumers of like the true cost of sending money internationally. So obviously we do a lot of stuff kind of direct to consumer, direct to small business on that. Then I think we look at kind of who is it who is having a kind of conversation with these people at the point where it's relevant. So, is it that they're on searching content, for example, on what's the cheapest way to send money internationally? Who's already ranking in the search results for that? How could we partner with those things? That's the kind of affiliate partnership model. Again, with small businesses, who's advising them on this stuff, on taking their business globally? Is it the accountants? Is it other content? How could we kind of get to that interaction and just really focusing on, again, kind of what's the problem we're solving for these people and who are they listening to at that point in time?
With us, we have the direct sales channel, so we have our direct sellers, we also have our online channel, we also go through partners. Partners are definitely very important, where we don't have the critical mass, we don't have a local office, we want to avoid risk or mitigate risk, so we definitely go through partners, whether it's a system integrator to help implement our solution, whether it's a referral partner, they definitely become our brand ambassadors. One of the key things, and having gone through the growth at Docusign and having worked with well-established companies in the world, I think what is very important, even when someone decides or a company decides to go with a partner strategy, is, again, get the right people that actually know how to set up a channel organization, because that can definitely make a difference. And it's basically kind of create a program for your partners. You have your gold, your silver, your bronze, whatever kind of ranking you have, to ensure that precisely your margins are, associated with actually the type of service your partner is providing you. But definitely, if we look at the channel, don't treat all partners the same, because they are definitely not the same. And as Nina said, there will be certain countries where a partner makes a lot more sense than others, where you have more of a direct presence. But I would say definitely have a program for your partners and rank them accordingly.
How much sort of due diligence would you before you enter a new market? This is both cross-culturally, and then where would you find the market research? How much work would you do in advance? This is probably for you guys on the left. I know you guys work through channels only. So,
from a Transferwise perspective, I think the best validation, we're very skeptical of theoretical market analysis, right? So there's loads of World Bank data out there that shows remittance flows, and we essentially just ignore it all. The bit we're more interested in is like how many people come to our website from a given country and wish that we had that currency, because that's a very validated demand that they do have a need, they've heard about Transferwise, they did want us to solve the problem for them. So we would, for example, prioritize market openings, whether it's sending from a currency or to a currency, based on people coming to our site and actually wishing that we had that, because we think that then gives us the kind of best prediction of if we enter that market, that there will be demand there and that it would take off.
I had a quick question on product market fit. So to what extent, when you're segmenting your market and understanding exactly the differences in types of organizations that want to use your products and services, how do you tailor your products and services to suit them? Do you actually change your platforms? Do you actually change the user experience, the level of functionality, or anything else?
Just a very brief, so we think of the products in two layers. There's the core and there's non-core. If somebody asks for something that's in our core layer, so say they want to be able to send money to Brazil, then, and there's enough demand for it, we'll go and do it. We don't, because we know it's going to benefit all of our customers. If somebody says, to work with you, I need you to be able to integrate into my accounting platform, that's non-core. We're an API company. You know, companies build us into their products. It's not what we do. And so we use that lens to say, you know, do we do it? Do we not do it? It's a very simple binary mechanism.
And then you offer the same services to all of your clients once that sort of build-in has been done? We
always build for all of our clients. We'd never build for one client. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I think very similar. Transferwise obviously is we've started now working with bigger and bigger companies, integrating the API to kind of similar Currencycloud, right, doing payouts. Then you do get more kind of custom requests, but our teams would basically prioritize their backlog based on their chosen metrics, right, which is often going to be something like total volume of payments that a given feature would unlock, which is always going to obviously favor those features which are common across all the customer base, ideally across consumers, small businesses, big businesses, and so they're the ones that tend to kind of float up to the top.
We hear a lot about from our sales teams about product and the communication. Sometimes, you know, certain companies, sometimes the product team dictates the product, and then it doesn't meet what actually customers are telling our reps. So fortunately at Docusign, we do have a product team that is very much aligned with the sales team, so they capture the feedback.
Our product team is very much sort of balanced between feedback from through the sales channel, but also I think we take a slightly different view in that we think that sometimes customers don't know what they want next. Mm-hmm. So our product team are very, very good at sort of going out to market, analysing the market, researching the market, and perhaps coming back with product features. And we often get feedback from the sales team that, well, you prioritise that over a request that came from a client. But sometimes we just take the strategic view that actually this is what is going to be more important in 12 months' time, more important than what a customer's asked for now. So it's a real fine balance, I'd say, but it's one that I think we definitely don't sit in sort of one camp or the other, really.
What is your number one takeaway for the group on go-to-market strategy? And if you'd like to switch it and say what you did wrong and how not to do it.
Oh, God. I think don't read a textbook and think that's your strategy. Like, because every business, every segment, every geography is different. And I think you have to be very thoughtful about using the right tool for the job. And I think it's very easy to say, so when I joined Currencycloud, my previous company was Amex, you know, big organisation. We were selling into 3 million corporates across the UK, pipeline driven. So I took the pipeline metrics. I was like, you know, how many, you know, MQLs, how many SQLs, how many ops, how many wins. And when you get to it, you're like, actually, if you're operating in a market where, A, half your customers don't exist yet, because a lot of our customers are startups, so they literally don't exist. So how do you think about that? You know, then you've got a bunch of customers who, you know, we're going after a segment of like, we want these 25 in this segment. You've got to figure out the right metrics for the job. Otherwise, I think you can get yourself lost very quickly.
That's great.
For me, I think it's probably starting with your ideal customer profile, because I think you know you can get your channel mix right, you can get your data right, but I think ultimately if you haven't started from the right point, I think you know you'll never succeed. And I think spending time really analysing that ideal customer profiling and sort of putting your stake in the ground and saying, right, this is our target market, and these are the reasons why the fit is right, the scale is right, everything about that's right, and being sort of honest with yourself and saying, right, we're going to exclude these parts of the market, we're going to focus. I think someone once said to me, especially in the early stages of a company, your target, it should be uncomfortably narrow, which I think is actually quite true in early stage companies. So I think for me, if you get that element of your go-to-market strategy right, I think a lot of the other stuff's easy, because I think you can spend a lot of time, if you get that bit wrong, you can spend a lot of time on sort of trial and error and getting everything else, and eventually you'll come back to it. And I think sometimes there's the temptation just to get out there and sell, but I think taking a step back and getting that bit right first is really valuable.
Yeah, I think kind of building on that, I think it's, like working out what you're not selling is really important, and then I think figuring out, getting the product to the point where there genuinely is the product fit. And I think what I've seen not work, and a previous company kind of mistake, was essentially the sales team had all the commercial targets and the product team didn't. And you just ended up where, like the sales team, everyone thought that the answer was to do more marketing and to sell it, but like the product was just shit. So it's like, there's just no point marketing and selling it.
Everyone's a company now, by the way.
But if your pricing's wrong, if the product's not good enough, and there were certain markets, right, where there was a fit, but we're trying to sell it to people where there just wasn't. And so I think in that sense, like getting the product team to own the commercials of the product and therefore be completely aligned with the sales team, and to think about put your effort into getting the product right rather than trying to get sales and marketing right as a kind of first thing. And obviously once you've got a product that people are talking about that they love, then you can sell it.
Well, to sum up what we've all been talking about in this session, I think the big mistake that a lot of companies make is the idea of one size fits all, which is not the case. It doesn't. Just because, and precisely, again, going back to the Docusign experience, Docusign was extremely successful in the US when it launched in EMEA. And the first thing we had to do once we arrived for the European launch was we can't do as we did in the US because it's not the same. So it's picking up the data that you have, obviously, your internal data, and a lot of companies have really good data signals, what are from those particular countries. Layer on top of that external information and sizing the market opportunity. And then obviously focus. Segment your sales teams. Don't have, the same rep that targets an enterprise account being the one that targets an SMB, because the conversation, the language, everything will be completely different. The product demand will be different. So I would say is, just avoid the common mistake, which is one size fits all. It definitely doesn't. So for me, that's the biggest takeaway.
Thank you, everybody, for the panel. Thank you very much.